Hello, everybody. The most important thing that is running your entire life is your subconscious mind. I've said many times your conscious mind, everything you perceive is 5% of your brain's horsepower. The other 95% of what's happening in your brain is in the dark of your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind is pushing you forward, it's dragging you forward with your life. If you're having bad results, good results, it is because of what is in your subconscious mind. Yet most of us don't know that, and most of us avoid it. We should be damn curious on seeing what's in our subconscious mind, finding it for details of what we are doing in our life every day, why we keep making the same mistakes, why we have self hate, why we're anxious, why we're depressed, why we date the wrong people, why we keep eating so much. All the answers are stored in our subconscious mind. But more specifically, I want to talk today about our self identity, our sense of self that is created by things that are in our subconscious mind. Your sense of self, who you think you are or who you think you aren't, creates stories. These stories come out of your subconscious mind and they color everything you think, which colors everything you do or don't do. It's all just based on these internal stories in our subconscious mind. And you didn't even put them there. They were injected before you had any sense of self when you were a little kid, at least the vast majority of it. Doesn't seem fair, right? I swear, it's quiet all day, and the minute I start filming, weed whackers everywhere, everywhere. Okay, back to the video. So anyway, it's really important that we pay attention to our stories that we tell in our head because they are running our entire life. You have kind of conscious stories, and then most of them are unconscious stories. What's an example of a conscious story? Well, let me give you two examples really quick. I used to work with a nice lady, and she was late to everything. And she would always just say, "Oh, I'll be late to my own funeral." She always kind of laughed about it. And not getting too much into that, but people don't like when you're late, and when you're consistently late, it doesn't look good. And we were both managers at a company, and the employees didn't like that, and they would talk and everything. Um, and she knew that, and I think she was a little insecure about it. But she just kind of like made jokes, made stories about it, and it certainly perpetuated at least an excuse for her to be late. So that was something she consciously knew and she kind of spoke into existence. Another example of a story, I had a coworker, and this was conscious and unconscious. She would kind of always joke and rag about hating men or just having problems with men. And she said, "Well, not you, Matt, but most other men." And I didn't get offended at all. I've done a lot of work. I see when people have anger issues and they have problems, it's a reflection of what they have inside. It has nothing to do with me. But I could see she had a strong narrative inside her mind, and she was conscious of it, but it was definitely coming from her subconscious mind. And it's not good for her. It's not good for her mind. It's not going to be good for half the world's population that she ends up interacting with. So those are two kind of conscious stories that people have running through their head that are just not doing any good for them. More of a subconscious story, one that I experienced, was just I thought I was a loser. It was deep in my subconscious mind. And I wasn't even really aware of it. I just avoided opportunities, didn't try my best, because inevitably I thought I wasn't going to do well anyway. And you could see when you have that kind of identity, you have that story running in your mind, it's going to manifest in all kinds of terrible ways in your life. We all have many of these stories running in our mind that are pushing our life forward in a good or bad way. So if this resonates with you at all, what are a couple of beginning things we can do just to be curious about this? Well, number one is just being aware that these stories exist in the first place. Like I told you with the example of me thinking I was a loser, for the longest time, I didn't even know it was there. That's just the way it was. It was who I was, it's how I lived my life. I didn't even realize that was a narrative that was pushing me forward. And then my friend who has problems with men, she's kind of aware, but when I talked to her about it privately, I kind of was pointing out that's, a story you have in your head. And she realized it, but she didn't fully realize it. And as we talked, I could see her kind of light up more and more and be curious if, oh yeah, I just had this deep story in my mind. So number one is being aware of the stories that you're telling about yourself and who you are and what you can do and what you can't do. You really want to consciously take time to monitor your thoughts. A very good way to do this is a mindful meditation practice. As you focus on your breath and you keep returning to your breath, thoughts are going to come out of your mind like clouds in the sky, and you're going to be able to notice them. Many of them are going to be nonsense, like what's for dinner. But a lot of gold's going to come out too. And you're going to see that some of your stories are going to come out, some of the negative talking. You'll be able to identify that and you'll be able to see it slightly separated from you, which is very interesting at first. And now you're starting to be aware of some of the challenging stories and words that are coming out of your subconscious mind. So awareness is number one. Number two is being curious. So now that we're aware that we have these negative thoughts that are running our life, we want to be curious about it. Why do we have those thoughts? Where did they come from? You need to revert back to your childlike mind and start asking questions. Why? 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 Keep asking. The first couple answers are going to be surface level. They're not going to get down to anything interesting. You need to ask again. You need to ask again to get to something deeper. As you keep asking and being curious about these stories that you have about yourself, after enough whys and examination, you might see that they're bullshit. You might notice that they recede into the darkness of your subconscious mind, where somebody else put those thoughts in your mind when you were young. And you also want to ask yourself, what purpose is this serving? That may sound crazy. Why would sabotaging yourself serve a purpose? That's horrible. It's ruining your life. But you got to think of it in a different context. My subconscious mind made an identity a story that I was a loser because it kept me from risk. I was afraid as a child. I had some trouble growing up. And if I thought I was a loser, I kept myself really small and I didn't try to do anything. And I kept myself safe because I needed that as a kid. So some of your challenging thoughts, with some of your bad stories that you start to see and ask questions about, ask what purpose is it serving? And third, and definitely most important, you have to have a strong want to change these things. We can analyze these things with our brain all day, and I love doing it. That's why I have this channel. But we are deep down an emotional creature. And analyzing it and talking about it, it's a start, but it's not the final step. You got to really feel it. You got to really want to change that story. See, it's not serving me. That's why we get curious about it and realize that these aren't facts, these are stories, and in fact, they're bullshit that was put there by somebody else. And damn it, I want to change that. You have to really feel it. Knowing is very good and important, but feeling and experiencing things, that's what really causes long-lasting change. So in the end, we all have these stories. You're not alone. Many of them aren't serving us, hurting us, keeping us in bad relationships, keeping us small, keeping us sick. And it takes a lot of bravery to notice and do something about these stories, and you can. Hopefully this helps somebody today. Take care.